Hello everyone, my name is Grace Baumgartner. Welcome back to my channel. Hi guys, it's nice to see you. So today's video is going to be a little different. I am going to go over a basic, not interview of the Bible, because that's not a good way to put it, but I'm going to share basically like an intro to me, my faith, and how I reflect upon the Bible is basically what I'm going to try to share with you guys. So I'm going to have my sister in the back, you can't see, ask me a couple questions. There's going to be 7 of them. So the first one is...
What is your short version of your testimony?
Okay. Well, I don't really have this miraculous testimony, but I have some pretty cool things that God has shown throughout my life to be faithful, and different ways that God... if you look outside, obviously you know that this couldn't happen by chance. But some greater things that, you don't need proof because of God, because God's God and He's everything, but that there's some things in my life that are very significant that I view as something that God is telling me. So I was born into a Christian family. If you know my family, you know that. So I was 5 years old, I think, when I was upstairs, and I accepted God into my heart. Now, as a 5-year-old, yes, there are some stories where that can happen, where you can truly understand God's goodness and greatness and stuff, but that was not me. I grew up, nursery rhyme, the whole 9 yards. I had, those memorized. Those were my favorite. Bible stories are what we read. And then, let's see, I'm 15 now. So when I was 6 years old, I broke my leg. And, well, actually I was 5, turning 6. I broke my leg, and my parents had, trouble, I was like, your leg really broken, now come on. And so then God, basically said, they gave him peace about going to the hospital. Turns out my leg was broken, and if you know that, I had a big, bright purple cast on, and I was the shortest girl, I think, ever to break their leg and be on crutches, because we tried so many places to find these crutches. Anyways, that's a little side note. But then, just different things throughout the whole story, my parents' life, my life. And then when I was, going into 4th grade, so what? I was probably 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there, and I broke my arm. And it's a pretty neat story. Not neat, but pretty God, wow, that's amazing. So let me tell you a story. So I was going up on top of the barn, and I fell through a hay hole. That's where you throw hay or straw down from the top of the barn to the bottom of the barn where the cows are. So just a quick hole through the floor that you put the hay down, quick and easy. And it wasn't covered. Now, most of the time it is, so it's not a safety hazard. They forgot to cover it, whatever, no big deal. Well, I fell through this going backwards, so I wasn't looking at it and falling through. I was walking back because I was making sure my cousin would be safe coming down from a wagon or a grain bin, but whatever it was. I fell through, hit the back of my head. I still have a little indent or bump there, but I hit the back of my head, so I was knocked out for it, because that turned out to be a blessing. So then I couldn't catch myself, because I only came out with a very mild concussion. The doctor couldn't even tell if I had a concussion or not, and a broken wrist. And it was a slightly broken wrist. It wasn't joints and bones were popping out everywhere, but so that was a big God moment. A couple inches away, there was a big box fan that was about 7 or so feet tall, had sharp corners, and if I would hit my head, I was that close. I don't know how you can see it, but I was 6 or so inches away from hitting my head on that. If I had been any taller, weighed any heavier, gravity could have pulled me a different way, and I could have landed face down in some cow waste. But anyways, so that being said, that was kind of an awakening for our family. That was kind of wow, God, thank you. And then so I was continuing going to church. Really didn't know I knew what God was. Wasn't really I believed in Him. I loved Him. I tried to honor Him. Right? I was I asked for forgiveness. It's just I didn't want to read my Bible or spend time daily with Him. And I, you prayed at night, you prayed when you eat your meals, but then you just, didn't have that really personal connection. So, about 2 years ago now, almost coming up on 2 years. Oh. I don't know, 2018, I think it was.
2 years ago.
Yeah, so a little over 2 years ago, in the fall and the summer, I was in Kentucky, and I went on a mission trip down there to help a poor community, and it was an amazing mission trip. But then I went to Indonesia, and I really saw a third world country for the first time, and it was like really eye-opening. There, yes, we had since it was kind of a, not an undercover mission, but like, it basically was like you're not allowed to be there to be a missionary, in that like the government doesn't allow that. So we went there on a tour, like we were there visiting, like we were
Tourists.
Yeah, we were tourists, and we were there just to view the sites, which we did. We got to see a coffee plantation, we got to see like a volcano crater thing, whatever that's called, I forget, I'm not in science class right now. And we saw like majestic waterfalls, like oh my word, like there is nothing here that I've seen in Pennsylvania that could compare to that. And like the mountains, like they were so green. Like I'm not like their winters there, they're like 50-degree days. So like everything's so luscious, it's like a rainforest. It's so gorgeous. But the people there, they don't have the technology. I don't even want to say technology, because technology is not could be used for good things, but it's, there's some consequences to technology. But over there, they have nothing. They're lucky if they even have like 8 channels on a TV, or they're lucky even if they have a TV. Like that's how, like if you want to think about it, like not even 30 years ago, but like 40 or 50 years ago, like they're so far behind with the technology that we have in America. So that was like an eye-opening experience. Like, wow, God, like you have blessed me in living. Like we might not have everything that, these billionaires, these people have that like are living in the world, but we have so much more because of God, and we have so much more, like we are so blessed to live in a free country, and that's something that opened up my eyes. So after that, summer later, I wanted to get baptized, and I got baptized, so that would almost be 2 years ago now, and I got baptized in the same river that my dad did, so that was really neat. But it wasn't until about like 6 months later where I actually pursued God and like wanted to have a deep, like real faith. And that sounds really bad, but until you have that deep connection, you really don't know Him. So, yeah, that's a little bit of my testimony. But from there, like in the Bible, it says to go spread the word among all the nations. And so that is what I'm trying to do, right? So we're going to live and love others. So that's our calling as Christians, is to follow God and to love God and to love others. And loving others is serving others, and just basically the golden rule, like do unto others that I haven't done to you, but do that in a way where you point all the glory back to God. So that was kind of long, but anyway, so what's question number 2?
What is your favorite verse or verses?
So for the longest time, James 1:17 was my favorite verse, and it says, I'm going to read it directly, I can tell you what it says, but it says, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. So that is like the first part of that. So like there's a part A and a part B to that verse. The part A is every good and perfect gift is from above. And like really noticing that, or like looking at that, like everything is God breathed and God made, and how awesome that is. Just like you look outside, like a tree who's 5 years old, that's made by God. I'm made by God. Without God, like nothing's possible. So that's kind of cool. And then my new favorite verse, or one of the verses that I now say is my favorite, is Romans 12:10, and it says, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourself. So that's taking us a step further, recognizing that everything's from God, everything's for God, and we're supposed to give all the glory back to Him, but then to love others because God loved us and died on the cross. So those are my favorite verses. Number 3.
What passage of the Bible impacts you the most?
Yes, so that would be what is known as the love chapter. But I'm going to read it to you in a different I don't know. I don't know if it's going to sink in or anything, but it's something that I'll explain later. So it's 1 Corinthians 13, 4, and then I'll stop at 13, so the end of the chapter. So, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. But we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became man, I put ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection in the mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part that I shall know fully, even as I fully am known. Now these 3 things remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. So that's a lot, to comprehend. And there's so much, you can break that down in so much different, different chunks of that passage. But for me, I don't know what the whole question was, but what was the thing that impacted you the most?
Yeah, the passage.
So for me, realizing that we are supposed to love others. So for me to put my name in there, saying, grace is patient, grace is kind, grace does not envy, grace does not boast, grace is not proud. Grace does not dishonor others, grace is not self-seeking, grace is not easily angered, grace keeps no records of wrong, grace does not delight in evil, but she rejoices with the truth. Grace always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. That's something that you're not going to be perfect overnight, and you're not going to come through that, but that's something that you continually work on. So that was how it impacts me the most, because as I grow my faith in the walk with the Lord, hopefully I become more Christ-like, and that is the goal, right? You're supposed to follow after Christ. Christ was perfect. He did not sin. It says that in the Bible. He was tempted, and he had all of this weight of guilt and sin from everyone once he died on the cross, and he overcame that and rose from the grave. So for us to love others and to love him, we are supposed to complete that way. That doesn't make sense. Show others his love through us being the way that this is spoken. And the last verse it says, but the greatest of these is love. And that's something that you have to show everyone. So, moving on. Number 4.
What are some of your favorite worship songs?
Yeah. So number 5,
No,
say
4.
that. I know. But what's number 5?
Number 5 is, what are some of your favorite hymns?
So these are the 2 questions that I struggle with the most. Well, not I struggle with the most, but there's so many answers. So I'm going to make a little video on that probably some other time. But I'm just going to say a couple of the new worship songs. So You Say by Lauren Daigle, Raise a Hallelujah, Scars, When We All Get to Heaven. Now that one's a hymn, but then there's an updated version that's pretty cool. I really like that one a lot. Who Am I? The Truth I'm Standing On, Testify, What a Beautiful Name It Is, See a Victory, Start Right Here, Run to the Father, and Thrive. So that's the worship song, you're worshiping to. And then
Contemporary.
Temporary. Contemporary. I was like, temporary. But then for the hymns, I have a whole list of them. I'm not sure if you can see them. But, so some of them is Circuit Riding Preacher, Hide Me Rock of Ages, Moving to Glory Land, Because He Lives, God Bless the USA, I Saw the Light, One Day at a Time, Lighthouse, Statue of Liberty, How Great Thou Art, obviously, everyone knows that one. I'm Free, The Old Rugged Cross, Victory in Jesus, and We'll Talk It Over. So those are just some of the ones that I just have, down. That's not all of them. I have a long run list. But I'll have to make a separate video on that. So, what's number 6?
How would you or what would you do to share the gospel with someone?
Yeah. So, so I have something in Philippians here, but yeah. So Philippians 1:6, verse 6. So being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on till the day of, oh my word, can't even speak. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. So the other one is Isaiah 64:8. So look that one up. But basically it's saying that he formed you in your mother's womb. He knows who you are, and he made you in God's image, in his own image, and that he will work on you until he comes back on this earth. And that's just something that everyone needs to know. Like, God's still going to forgive you no matter what you've done, no matter how many times you turn away. But if you repent of those sins, that you're truly sorry, and because we sin every day, and it's something that we're not God. We will sin daily, but it's our goal to try to be more Christ-like. But the way Christ is, that he forgives and loves constantly and repetitively, and he's slow to anger. He's like very, very patient. He's forgiving, right? Obviously, we know, like, if we read any of the Gospels, if we read the whole rest of the New Testament, even in the Old Testament, how many times has his people wandered away from him? Like, they had to be in the desert for 40 years. 40 years because they disobeyed. And it's just something that after so much, God disciplines you because he loves you. And because he loves you, you can keep coming back to him. And because you're forgiven, you can keep coming back to him. So that's just something that I would share to everyone, because it doesn't matter how far you've gone or how far away you can roam, you can't outrun the love of God. Reckless love is another good one. And that's what that song kind of talks about, that he will leave his whole flock of sheep just if one strays away. And it's just, think about that. Like, if you had 99 pieces of candy and you lost one candy, would you really go back and find that one Hershey Kiss? I don't think so. Like, you would stick with your whole pile of candy, but no, God would go and find it because you're valuable to him. He loves you, and he loves you that much. So if I were to tell anyone something about Jesus, or not even about Jesus, like the whole story behind him, he died on the cross for you. And only you. If he had to die on the cross for you, he would do it. But he died on the cross for everyone. But again, if you were the only one, he would go and find you, make a way, so you can live with him eternally in heaven. So number 7 is the last one.
What is something about God that you want the whole world to know?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, like, you want to give everyone in the world a Bible and be like, read it front to back, please, and tell me what you think, right? Because it's something that is, like, doesn't matter if you don't like reading or not. It's, number 1, it's nonfiction. Number 2, it has some history in it, obviously, right? Lots of history. There's only one book of the Bible that is not history, right? And that's in the future, so that's like, what is it called? Science fiction. But it's not fiction. It will be true. And it has romance, songs of Solomon, whatever you want to call it. It has just forgiveness, like the story of forgiveness, the story of love, like over and over again, like the selfless sacrifice. So overall, right, you want everyone to know about the Bible, what's in the Bible. But I want everyone to know that God is faithful. He will never fail you. Even though his plans for you and what he's doing in your life may not seem like the best, because people die, pass away, unfortunately, that's because we sinned. That's because of us that people pass away. But it's a factor of life now, and we have to deal with that. But God's plan is ultimately greater than our plan, because we are not God. We serve him, right? So we want to honor him and make glory known to him. And it may not seem what we want or our timing, because our timing, we think we have to run on the plan, but no, if you're 1 second off, you can avoid a car crash. And maybe God's like, well, I'm going to take that piece away from your memory because I want you to avoid that. He knows his plan's better for you. So if you're a minute late, you might want to be thankful because you could avoid something. Or something like that. Just little things throughout the whole day, throughout your life. Like, oh, you might not want to go to college. You might not know right away. But then once you do, you can thank God and you can realize that God's so much more faithful in that way. But, yeah, so God's plans are always better. We maybe just haven't seen it yet. So that's something that's so important because obviously we haven't seen the new heaven and the new earth yet. We haven't seen God yet, and that's something that only very few people got to actually see Jesus in a certain time compared to the whole span of history in general. But it's something that we have to know that God's plan is greater. God, he is for us, not against us. He will prevail, and we just haven't seen it yet. So, with that being said, if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment down below what you want to see. Let me know if you want to see the music videos or some like sermons, and not sermons, but like just lessons that I've taken from the Bible and taken from different podcasts and different videos that I've watched to kind of help you guys along the way. I know I want to do that, so I don't know if like you want to see like songs being recorded on the piano, ukulele, just me singing. If you want like a whole like sermon, I guess, but like, or if you want like shorter videos, if you want to see my worship playlist songs or my hymn songs that I enjoy the most, just comment down below what you want to see. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Remember to love God, love people, and always make time for those you love.